In 5 minutes, I'm going to teach you how to read as fast as Einstein. But first, let's understand why Einstein is such a badass reader. Despite never moving until he was 6, and then having an addiction to potato, as a young scientist, he learned to speed read through tying pages to his body. In 1936, he became speed reading world champion. However, controversy struck when he attacked an opponent.
How fast did you read the book? Yeah, 1.5 seconds, you'll not beat me. Hey, look at this.
I'm Einstein! Einstein!
In the speed reading rematch, Einstein was disqualified for making inappropriate notes, and he was forced to return his medal.
Albert Einstein.
At his peak, Einstein was reading at around 900 words per minute. We will do a short test now, and at the end of the video, a speed reading match against Einstein. The test will begin once Einstein's hair is fully blown off. In 3, 2, 1, go! To confidently beat Einstein in the speed reading championship match at the end of the video, I'm going to teach you the 3 key reading skills of training your brain, training your eyes, training your approach. First, let's focus on training your brain to beat Einstein. A really important technique in speed reading is delegation. Now, in nature, as predators or as prey, the eye is not made to create a movement, but to follow a movement, to chase or run away. Therefore, we delegate the moves so the brain is following. Ways that you can do this are with a finger, a pen, any kind of pointer. Use a leak if you want. Just something which will follow the words for you, and so your eye doesn't have to do the work. Next is sub-vocalization. This is sounding out the words in your head. And what this does, your reading speed is actually your talking speed, because you're talking in your head. Now, what you need to understand to be getting through so many books is that reading isn't about words, but rather it's about extracting and comprehending ideas and absorbing information and getting details. Words by themselves don't mean much. It's when they're assembled together. And so many words are just simply there for grammatical purposes, and they're not actually doing or contribute anything to our understanding of something. To be successful at speed reading, focus is really important. Now, this might be a revelation for you. How we lose our focus isn't when we overload ourselves with information. Very often it's when we have sensory underloading. If you don't remember something you've just been reading, then it's because your brain was drifting off somewhere else. So to correct this, you need to go back and you need to actually accelerate, and to make your brain work harder. Make a demand of your brain and increase the intensity. Now, moving on from the brain and onto part 2, we will focus on the eyes. This is a sneak preview of the test format at the end of the video. In just under 4 minutes, we will now train your eyes for grouping words and zigzagging across the page. Okay, so for this next part, I've actually got a book and a pen, and I'm going to show you some techniques on the page. So the first thing I want us to think of is the span, and how we increase the span and the capacity to take words in. Now, this is linked to peripheral vision. So when we're looking directly at camera, if I put these 2 fingers here, you can see what each fingers are doing and that they're waggling right now. We don't need to be looking directly and moving across and seeing these fingers. Our brain can observe that in a wider periphery. Now, we can also think about this upon the page. We don't have to glance at individual words. We can see them in the wider landscape of our vision. So a technique that you can use to make sure that you are using your peripheral vision is to draw 2 lines upon the page like this. And if you just focus on reading between these lines, areas here, your peripheral vision will take notice of it. Through just scanning between these areas, you're saving yourself the time of not overextending your sight and going to the end of each line. Also as well, I want to talk about zigzagging. Okay, so when we move across the page, rather than going in a linear fashion word for word, we can start to try and find pockets of information as we move along and scan. So it's not following the logical structure of the line, but you're using your peripheral vision and finding points that you can capture on the page to take in a wider landscape of the words around this point. And if you get practiced at it, you'll soon get really good at absorbing the information without having to go word for word as you're reading along a linear line. An easier technique to start off with is just grouping words together. There's a lot of words which are in sentences which are just there for grammatical purposes. So if we look here, we can see just reading essential power brokers. We can just capture that, just look at it as almost like it's one complete word that we're focusing on, and then seeing it all within your peripheral vision. vision.
Moving on from the eyes, I will now retrain your approach to reading. As a professor, Einstein not only read fast, but got through many books through reading books together and the techniques of pre-reading and skimming. There is now just under 2 minutes until the test.
Hurry up!
So first of all, don't just be reading one book at a time. Have a stack of books, a table full of books. The chances are that they'll all link on a topic, so be reading several at once. Be inspired from them all. Find the connections as you're reading, which makes you want to pick up another book to compare and to contrast what one author is saying in the different positions. And therefore, you're drawing together an intricate web and a dialogue between all these different books. And you're just going to get through so many more. The next thing to do, I call this pre-reading. This can often be done at the actual shelf before you decide what books are going into your bag or going into your box and going home with you. Here, you're actually sizing up the book in a non-linear, flicking through, looking at chapter headings, reading the introduction where most of the information is contained. When you've done this quick reading, this pre-read, you've got a good comprehension about what is to come. Is it suitable? What are you going to garner and gain from it? You don't know until you start reading which books are going to be good, which books are suited, which books you enjoy, which books are actually adding the value. At this point, you may well be using the techniques of skimming and pseudo-skimming. The longer the reading, the higher the percentage of filler paragraphs. Not all paragraphs are central to the position being carved out. Importantly as well, much of the information that you need sits within the introductions and the conclusion. This is the book in itself in short form. So skimming the edges and cutting out the middle bit is a good way to read fast.
Yeah, baby, yeah.
Your training has now finished and it's time to see if you can beat Einstein and push for a reading speed of 900 words per minute. Read the 3 paragraphs, pause the video when finished and note your reading words per minute in the bottom left corner. For the score to be accepted, your comprehension must be over 75%. Answer the 4 questions and see if you can get at least 3 of them correct.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions, and I want to have them answered immediately.
Reading speed is important, but to actually read more books, you need to be motivated. Therefore, click on the video here to find out how to create good reading habits and to be motivated to read more.